Okay, so we all know the reason we're here is to try to save the water level in Toddy Pond. We all know that Buckwood Mill LLC has filed a petition to try to find an owner. They can't find an owner. They're asking the DEP to release the water from Toddy Pond, Alamoose, and Silver Lake. So the status and update of the dam abandonment is in this slide presentation. What we've been doing as a group to try to get some legislation to make some laws that we can have our own ownership or something of that nature. So far through Facebook donations that Toddy Pond Association has set up, the town of Penobscot has taken in about $2,000 to help pay the legal fees. The select board also, when we had our special town meeting, we took $20,000 in surplus. So the Penobscot share of the lawyer fees, I think we're all set, taken care of. We want to thank Nina Milliken, who has sponsored the bill that is coming up for the legislation. Steve Bishop is on the other side of the political party, and he has underwritten it or going along with it, along with several other legislators from Hamden, Winterport, Dedham, everybody in the general area is on board. Toddy Pond Association's efforts have been second to none. They have a Facebook page. All of this is their doings. All of this has come from their funding. The Maine Monitor has had several articles and some public meetings about not only this situation, but other dam issues in the state. Kevin Turcott is a gentleman who offered his services to do the GIS for the mapping of the water depth on Toddy and Alamoose. Charlie Block, we never met the guy. He came to the front and said that he would help with a business survey. So we sent surveys out to the businesses to find out what kind of economical impact the water level drop at Toddy Pond would have on their business. Places as small as my wife's business to Hammond Lumber, businesses of all nature. Mark Whiting is with the Hancock County Soil and Water Conservation District. There was a grant that came through from those folks, and that's what we've been using to pay for the people to facilitate and help take care of these meetings that we've been having. Owen started a couple weeks ago. Last week we did Surrey and Blue Hill. Ours was supposed to be last week, but inclement weather put us till today. So this will be the last meeting of this type. I suspect there'll be more later on. The key concerns is a loss of public boats, swimming access, disruption of loon nesting habitats, and effects on conservation areas. Potential consequences of the abandonment. Right now, this is just $240,000 figure. Tax revenue losses from the town of Penobscot is just basically a generic number, but I run through valuations on Toddy Pond and tried to figure if there was a 30% drop in valuations on Toddy Pond, what that would equal in tax money. So that $240,000 fee would have to come from the other taxpayers. That if that drop came, that would have to come from the other taxpayers in town. Our estimated town value is about $222 million. So that 240 would be about one mill rate. So $1 per thousand. We're gonna have a question and answer in a little bit. Business disruption. The people who, for instance, the small businesses that rent kayaks and canoes, the people use them. So there's a lot of business disruption with the water level dropping. This map, you can't see it all that well, but anything in the white in this area is, right now is all water. If there's an 8-foot drop in the water level, everything that is white would be marshland or mud. July through September 24 was a formation of a 5-town dam committee. Buckport, Portland, Penobscot, Blue Hill, and Surrey. We met pretty steady on a bi-weekly basis in Buckport to try to figure out what avenue we needed to travel. Buckport retained their own legal counsel because Silver Lake is basically singular to them and doesn't incorporate the rest of us. So the other 4 towns got together and formed a 4-town committee, and we have been meeting via phone Zooms and things like that. We initiated impact assessments, which are coming, explored ownership solutions, which we're going to talk about later. Buckport did pass a dam abandonment ordinance, and Buckport Mill LLC says that's not really a legal document because it's too late in the game, that's their conception. Portland has enacted a 180-day moratorium, same as any ordinance that we would have to do. Portland formed that 180-day moratorium so they can work on an ordinance. October 19th, Buckport Mill LLC submitted a second application to the DEP because the first one was deemed insufficient. November 1st, the DEP accepted that position. And by December 13th, all 5 municipalities completed town votes required to pursue potential ownership discussions, which was what we had back when we had our special town meeting. All of the other towns did the same thing, so everybody's on the same page as far as that legal process goes. November 14th and 24th, there was a public meeting at the Maine Community Training Facility in Buckport. Buckport Mill LLC took questions from numerous people from all towns, and they were posted on the buckportmillanswers.com website, and they danced around answering questions that needed to be answered. A lot of questions that were asked, and they failed to come up with the answer. They answered the ones that we pretty much knew the answers were pretty simple. So we've asked for the DEP commissioner to try to push that so that we can get those answered. That meeting did not constitute a formal town consultation, which is part of the process. The Town of Penobscot has to have a consultation with Buckport Mill LLC. That's going to happen through our legal counsel, which we've been in touch with. Next slide. Individual group consultation has been through Tawny Pond Association, Alamosa Lake Association. Municipality consultation has been, the 4 towns have been working pretty hard, pretty consistent, trying to figure out languages for this legislation and trying to make all of this come to the best interest of all interested parties. The owner has to report to DEP late in April on their consultation process with who's going to own the dam. Whether it's going to be Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, Tawny Pond Association, Town of Penobscot. They're not doing their due diligence to have these meetings, so we don't know what's going to happen. The DEP has granted a 180-day extension from the first petition, so now we're okay up until the middle of October. The state agency evaluation comes, I think, after that, if no one is back. The 60-day to determine ownership is warranted and all way cost of the dam in public view. Then things go to Department of Fisheries, Department of Agriculture, Conservation and Forestry, and Maine Emergency Management Agency. Current initiative is Governor's Bill expanding consultation requirements, dam assessment and renovation revolving funds, Maine Emergency Management Agency enhancement for increased inspections and technical assistance. These are some more slides on the water levels.
Those sections are, I've tried to put up the sections that were bordering the town of Penobscot
Okay,
borders.
so Medea put these together to try to get the sections that would be bordering Penobscot. So anything in the white, on those slides that you see in the white, today is ice. April will be water. If the water level at Toddy Pond drops 8 feet, everything that's in white will then be mud. So the legislation that Nina Milliken has put out is for a quasi-municipal watershed protection district. It will be governed by an appointed or elected by an appointed or elected board, funded by contributions by property owners and assessments or both. So the assessments would be local funding from tax assessment. Authority to own and operate and renovate the Toddy Pond Dam, and implementation will require voter approval. So in order to get this quasi-municipal entity, it's going to have to pass votes in all 4 towns. So in order for anybody to be able to do anything to preserve the dam or take it out and put down a ripple step down like we have at Pearson's Pond and White's Pond, some entity has to own the dam. And it doesn't look like right now that any of the state agencies are going to take it. It's hard for me to come up and say we should take it because we have no idea what it's going to cost to take care of the dam. We got no idea what the annual maintenance is going to be on the dam. So that's why we're pushing legislation to get Bushwell Mill LLC to bring those numbers forth. They are saying that there's a confidentiality and all of this other stuff that they don't have to release that. We're thinking different. Our lawyers are pushing different. So we're in hopes that within the next few days, the next week, we'll have some kind of an answer on that. So tonight, we're going to be breaking out into individual groups. Tables are numbered 1 through 5. So when I get done speaking, Medea's going to get people organized to go to the different tables. We're going to try to split it up so that Toddy Pond landowners and people who own property, or you'll have just taxpayers in each group, so that no group is particularly stacked one way or the other. And then the first question that's going to be trying to answer is, should the lake be preserved? Or should we let DEP run the process that Bushwell Mill LLC want? If they don't find an owner, then DEP releases the water. The second question is cost allocation method. So if all the towns vote to have this quasi-municipal entity, there's going to be some costs. So the cost allocation, the answer for the survey is going to have to be either it's going to be funded by the property owners on the lake, or it's going to be funded by solely the town, or it's going to be funded by a combination of the two. And if we're gonna fund by the combination of the two, we have to try to figure out excuse me, what the percentage of each entity is going to pay. You know, keep in mind when you're thinking about what it's gonna cost, there's 4 towns. So if you have a $20,000 annual maintenance, it's gonna be divided by 4 towns. And if it's gonna be divided by towns and taxpayers, then it's gonna be divided different. So the costs are going to be spread out. The more people involved, the cost per person or mill rate or however it's going to be, it's gonna be a little bit less. Because we have 4 towns. This isn't only the town of Penobscot, it's gonna be funding this entity. It's going to be Penobscot, Roland, Blue Hill, and Surrey. And it's going to try, we haven't written all of everything that we need to yet, but it's going to be written probably on evaluation status for the towns. If it's funded by the town, each town's valuation will be the total valuation on Toddy Pond, and then if Penobscot's valuation is $8 million, then that will come to whatever percentage will be the town, what the town is funding. So I think that's the last slide.
Yeah.
So
Q&A?
we're gonna go to Q&A right now. Let me get the mic. Hold on.
Where's the other microphone?
It's right
here
there.
we go. Yes, I'd be happy. Is this on? Okay, good. I would be happy to do that. Somebody asked for introductions of the folks at the table.
Okay, so you all know me. I think you all know me. I'm Harold, the chairman of the select board in Hancock. This is Medea Steinman. She has done a lot of work getting the structure of these meetings done. And she worked for the Hancock County Soil and Water Conservation District, along with Mark Whiting, who is sitting here. The guy in the red jacket is Scott Miller. He's a select board member from Blue Hill. Mary Allen is a select board member from Surrey. And Gina McDonald is a select board member from Old. The select board, along with, you see who's here. Michael Sheriff is over here. Donna Foster, Chris Clough. They have been to, collectively, this group has been to 90% of the meetings. Few people have missed a few, but not many. Jeff Ross, he set up the Facebook page for Toddy Pond Association for the funding and getting the word out. We need to thank the Toddy Pond Association. Without the work that they have done, I think the word probably would have stalled a lot shorter than it did. So we need to thank them people and all of the property owners on Toddy Pond. If they don't belong to the association, they need to be thanking them for what they're doing for the neighbors. So now we'll go to the questions and answers.
Do you want to walk around with it? Okay. Okay.
Reviewing that, CJ Gall recommended live on my pond. And I wondered if there's a significant number of people who have second home.
We can't hear you. I think maybe hold it closer.
I'm wondering if there are a significant number of homeowners, camp owners on time who pay taxes, but are not registered to vote in any of these towns. Will they not be able to vote on the issue that's coming before the public?
Unfortunately, since they're not residents of Louisville, Surrey, Poland, they won't. Therefore, this is where the people who own properties on Toddy Pond that have people that live here need to get to their neighbors and say, we need to get out and vote. I know a lot of people that live in Penobscot that have property on Toddy Pond that don't come here and vote for anything. So if you have a neighbor who lives in the town of Hancock, on Toddy Pond, off the Toddy Pond, and you want support from them, you need to get out and tell them to come and vote.
People live like in Portland, Maine.
Unfortunately, the people who are not registered to vote will not be able to vote. Therefore, local ethnic people need to be the voice of the vote. Unfortunately for that, they don't get that say. Sarah.
That now, and sort of explain, like if you, where that is.
My chart.
That's a good question. I did my best with the maps that were provided by Kevin Turcotte. These two were labeled as midsection, so kind of roughly aligned with the border of the town of Penobscot.
So
It's not precise.
middle,
So, yeah, I know.
We're gonna do the whole, the big one?
Yeah, go to the big one.
Yeah.
You got a map? Try that one.
Okay, so this map right here is Middle Dotting. This is the narrow between First Dotting and Middle Dotting.
Yeah.
This is a narrow just below where your place used to be there. And this is Third Dotting. So the narrows between Second and Third Dotting will basically be a walkover. The same in two places probably up in the narrows between First Dotting and Second Dotting.
a camp or a house or whatever from Middle Tawny, how far down do they expect, not in the narrows? How far down do they?
So right at this right here is Short Point. So basically, once you clear the narrows, the water level will come up, but there'll probably only be 2 feet of water until you get down there, 150 yards. And then when you come down into between Second Toddy and Third Toddy, this is that island out in front of where your place used to be, Sarah.
Yep.
And there's gonna be very shallow water there. And this place down here is probably where Rusty Ames' place is. Dave Judkins on the Penobscot side. So, hold on. Yeah, so this doesn't depict how far, this doesn't tell you how far it is, it shows you the white line. But some places it's gonna be as little as, hold on. Some places it's gonna be as little as 10 feet of mud out front, and some places it's gonna be up to 400. Depending on what the water level is in front of your place right now. If you live in a cove that's shallow, and from point to point, there's 6 feet of water on the inside of that, that's all.
Has it already been determined that no government agency is willing to assume ownership?
No, we haven't got that far in the process yet. But this legislative process has to be in line, and we have to be ready to go. If none of those entities take it, there's only one opportunity. We need to be ready. Yeah.
Water's out of the ponds, and now I've got 400 more feet of property in front of my house. Whose land is that?
As near as I can tell, from what I know, and I've been around Toddy Pond since I was 12. Every property that I know of on the Penobscot side was designed after the dam was put in. So at the shoreline, there is a property line stake. Your deed says you own 300 feet on the water, you own 300 feet back, you own 300 feet across the back line. So my assumption is going to be that the state owns the water now. If the tide goes out, the state will own that property between your old line, old shoreline, and the new shoreline. Right, yeah. Yep, keep it right up. Put it right on your.
Right inside.
What would be the long-term picture? If this happened, if the water went out, would all that land turn to marshland eventually?
Yeah. Whenever Mother Nature distributes seed from, plants or whatever that, go to seed at the end of the generation, spread it across there, that much grass got to dry out to a certain point before it will accept whatever seed may land there. So at some point, yes, that would be the way it would end up.
Green up.
Yeah.
Another question, you mentioned, that the company,
Blackwood Mill LLC.
has not answered any questions. That's what we said in the last meeting, and is there still absolutely no information about the condition of the dams, what it would cost?
We have received no information.
Why doesn't the DEP do an analysis, an inspection of the dam and say this is the condition and what it costs?
The DEP is just moderating the petition. They're acting on the petition that the have done. You could probably answer something.
I would just like to add. I would just like to add to that we, through our lawyer, and Bucksport has done the same thing. We've contacted DEP with our concerns about the lack of responsiveness. They have replied to AIM Bucksport Mill LLC, same thing, but to tell them that they must negotiate in good faith, and they will listen to all of us who have been saying we're not getting anything. If they don't provide us the information, then they would be deemed not negotiating in good faith, and their petition will be rejected. So they've been put on notice that if they don't supply information to us, they won't get approval to drain the lakes. DEP also is very clear with them that as public entities, Bucksport Mill cannot expect us to sign a confidentiality agreement because we're public entities, we deal in sunshine, we can't keep stuff from our voters. And in fact, we don't want to keep stuff from our voters because we need to come to you and say, here are the projected costs. This is what we think it's going to be. This is how we plan to raise the funds, blah, blah, blah. We can't possibly ask you to vote on something in July with no information. So DEP's on our side trying to get the information. They do say they absolutely simply can't force them to do it, but they can't deny their petition if they, and they've been told. So that's about what we get.
Any questions over here? We don't know on that side.
All of the funds, one, can't hear you. Is this a decision that goes for all of the ponds, one decision for all of the ponds, or are they making separate decisions?
So Silver Lake is much more. They're on their own. Alamosa Lake is pretty much Orland, because it's only in Orland. Toddy Pond is one that's got the most of it because it's in Fort Dodge. So this quasi municipal entity that we're working to get, there'll be two, one for Alamosa Lake, one for again, Blackfoot is on it. However they end up going.
Question about. Doesn't seem fair to me.
then you've got property on that water, then you don't have to say, any say about what happens to the whole lake system. Is there any way that the towns can pass a legislation that enables people who have property can vote, but only in that particular case, not in an election? I mean, that seems to be the concern.
That's a good, that's a concern with everybody. I don't know if you could get a legislation thing to happen soon enough. We're on a timeline, and I feel bad for the people who live away, who don't have a say. What's gonna make it happen? What's gonna make it happen? Is the salesman stands up front, and tells you that this needs to happen. Because Jeff can't be, Jeff's not a resident of Town of Penobscot, he can't vote. But it's up to me as select board president, who's gonna bring this to the table, to try to sell it to everybody else in town and make them understand.
Can I have one thing as well? The entity that we are creating is going to have a board of trustees. The way we're envisioning it right now is that the board of trustees will be a combination of people that are appointed by the municipalities and people that are representing the lakefront property owners. So the lakefront property owners will be on the board, helping make budget decisions and set the direction for the entity. We're trying to figure out if it's legal, and so I can't promise this is gonna happen, but if it's legal, we're trying to set it up so the people that do not live in one of the 4 towns but own property can at least vote for their representatives on the board. So that gives at least some voice to the people from away that own the property here. It's not as good as getting to vote whether you want the entity or not, but at least you can vote for who's representing you on the watershed district. So we are trying to be sensitive to that issue.
I have 2 questions. Where does the 8-foot number come from? And the second question is, in terms of this information that we're trying to get from the LLC, and they have not been forthcoming, and how is that going to impact with the information we can give the voters by this voting deadline?
The 8-foot depth came from the GSI map, GIS map, is done through some kind of LiDAR.
It may drop more, may drop less.
Yeah, so there's another map out there that the water level. There's another map out there that tells us about the marking answers to questions he's been dealing with.
All I can tell you is that was done by a guy who was the chairman of geology. I used a bunch of different sources, pretty talking people differently, develop a model that would explain the lake level. He's got like 5 different. It's pretty shocking when you see it goes down 10 or 12, which is not what it is. If you do go to the TVA website, there is a set of maps and some explanation of how we did that. I know that it's one that Kevin loves to keep out of stuff. So if you guys want to engage in that discussion, you can have to amount of information. I know I couldn't understand.
And as far as the other question was the information that we're not getting. Yeah, we're not, we can't even in good faith exactly bring something to the table without. So we have to have a number before we can have a special town meeting or any kind of meeting to make a decision. So with the pressure from the DEP and them stating that they don't come forth with some of this information that they say is so critical that they can't let it out because they're afraid somebody will spread it. Who the hell is gonna buy a piece of property if they don't know what they're gonna get?
Hey, Harold?
So we need to have a number.
So you. Here, just turn it up again. There we go. So you may have been a little confused, just because the timing for this meeting is because of the legislative calendar. We need to get the legislation done now. So we all wish that we were getting the information earlier and getting some information, but we're not. But we can't wait until whatever, May, when we get something. If we get information in May, if this entity hasn't been formed or authorized in the legislation, we can't do it. So I think your question is, aren't you putting the cart before the horse, maybe, without any information?
Voters voting on whether to certify fund or preserve the town.
They would be, so the idea is this legislation will be hopefully passed. We don't think it's gonna be, we need to define what it is. That's what this meeting is largely about. Once we have a template, we assume it will be passed. It's not very controversial. We don't think anybody's gonna object to the state legislation. That will authorize us, after 4 yes votes from the 4 towns, to actually form the entity. So
We'll decide if it wants to.
well, presumably we wouldn't be going to a vote unless we, for example, had an agreement with Bucksport Mill to take ownership of it. But Mike, I guess my point is the legislation needs to happen now, so we have the ability to vote to form this entity at some point within the next, 5 months. Once we have the information, we're ready to go.
And I think the question was, I think you were asking, well, we have to decide tonight or in a few weeks or a few months. Right, but tonight's purpose is the 2 questions that Harold showed. Do you want to preserve the water in the lake? Yes or no? And we've had groups, if the other 3 towns, some people said, no, we should open the dam up and let the water out. But the second question is the vote on who's gonna bear the responsibility for payment of maintaining the dam. So that's the question to you all. Those questions are to you tonight. We just want you to say yes or no to the dam being retained or maintained. And the second one is, how should it be paid for, percentage-wise, from towns or property owners?
Can I interject here for a minute, please? So I just wanted to time here. It's 6:45. The meeting is supposed to go till 7:30. We'll need to break it down. And then we're gonna do a report back from the breakout groups. So that means at this point, we have 45 minutes. Just want to check in with you. Harold.
We'll do 3 more questions.
Okay.
When we don't know if the Toddy Pond Dam that AIM looked into it, and one of the reasons they're walking away from this altogether is that thing is a nightmare and it might fail in 3 years. 5, and we're looking at a $10 million dam replacement. I'm not capable of sitting here tonight saying, yeah, that seems like a reasonable thing to suggest that the taxpayers of Penobscot take on.
And microphone.
Don't just give it up.
Before we vote, because those are very legitimate concerns. We're probably this process will probably conclude in July or August with a town vote. We will know that the time vote. So what we're trying to do right now, if we talk to a number of other organizations and towns that own dams, just to get a ballpark, right? We don't know far. But the average is about $10,000 a year for operation and maintenance costs. Not renovation costs, which we do the grants, it's not like catastrophic repairs that may have to happen. But if you look at your basic operation and maintenance, the average that most people are spending on their dams, and frankly, the Orland Dam in Orland, we only budget $5,000 a year for operation and maintenance. It may not be enough, but it's enough. If you take $10,000 and we're splitting it right now by the number of properties on it, the Penobscot share of $10,000 a year would come to $2,400. If you split that 50-50 between the town and the property owners, the town's bill would be $1,200. Each property owner on Toddy Pond would spend $9.52.
Yeah, but if you're like Harold, you own 2 properties, you're gonna be nailed for
$20.
$19.
A little bit of perspective, I know it's gonna cost X, Y, and Z, but at least gives you some sort of ballpark idea of what the average is gonna be, so you're, it's not quite as a blind thing as it feels to this conversation, but the basic is, we're really trying to figure out who's, and put aside the catastrophic failures or the major renovations. Who should really have the burden of paying for this? Is it mostly the people that live on the lake? And I would like to say one thing, you keep hearing lakefront property owners say, well, we pay a premium for living on the lake. Well, that's kind of a misstatement because you don't pay a different mill rate. Your property is just more valuable. So when you go to sell it, you get a lot more out of your property than somebody who has your house in town. You just got a better investment. So you really paying for your property value, not that you're paying a higher rate of taxes. But anyway, the idea needs to be, should the property owners pay most of it, half of it? Should the town pay most of it, half of it? And we have to put this in our legislation in the next 2 weeks. So we really need to hear your thoughts as best as we can.
We have a question up front, and someone has to talk about, and this relates to what you're saying. I keep thinking of the state-owned land in the pond, but you might not just local people, but people from all over Maine and from out of state enjoy that fishery. And then on Alamoosic, there's the hatchery, which is owned by federal.
The federal government.
And I would think that the water level in Alamoosic is really important to the hatchery. Is there some mechanism in the proposed legislation that would allow for those agents of the state and the government, or the hatchery to contribute to the cost of it as to be rebuilt?
So they have to get their water, like, on. They do pull Alamoosic to get the water temperatures where they need. So they do drop in water. No number to me. So the way I guess I understand it is the big hatchery doesn't want to speak because the federal government doesn't want dams, and so they don't want to get into the middle of what's going on. There's a lot of things in dams that people want, people don't want, and they don't want to get into the middle of anything at this point. So unfortunately, that's kind of not a good situation for them to take because they're going to be drawing water from a body of water that is going down. And once it gets to the level where it's lower than the highest dam point, and they still draw water. It's a big thing. Last question. Yeah.
This is the last question.
This is the last question.
Okay. Oh, question, sorry. Is that
Microphone.
Is there anyone who has not spoken yet who would like to say something? I'm sorry, but I'm still confused. Is there-
Don't feel alone. We've been doing this since August and September.
So,
Confused all the time.
Am I correct in understanding that we're doing this as sort of a contingency plan in case some government does not decide to take control of the thing?
No,
Not necessarily. Tonight's meeting is a survey. We're going to plug into what we're gonna do with the legislative process. Get into the legislative bill that needs to be done before the end of the month. So what we're doing here is just getting the information back to us and our panel of people who are putting these numbers together to see which way we need to go when we write the process and send it to a government.
this is not though, the way the statute for abandonment is written. The towns have their consultation, and we have till the end of the middle of October to say yes or no. Whether we're going to take ownership of the dam, so whether we want to implement this entity we're designing or not. If we say no, then it will go to the 3 state agencies for evaluation. If they say no, there is no provision for us to come back and say, whoops, we want it after all. So we have to make a decision prior to those 3 agencies' evaluation. The only way we can come back at the end is with the dam owner's permission, and we have clarified that with DEP. And I do not believe that AIM will give us permission at the end to come back with a Hail Mary. We got another plan over here. So this decision by the towns will have to be in place, not after the state agencies decide, but before, because that's the way the statute's written.
Okay, I'm gonna make an executive decision here and call it.
You don't want to stay here all night?
Thanks so much for that. 7:30. Yes, we're gonna all the questions there. We're gonna go into breakout groups. And then we're gonna come back and report out from the breakout groups. And at that point, if people want to stay, continue the conversation, you are more than welcome, and we will stay. But also, can I take it from here, Drew, then?
Yeah, I just want to say one thing. This isn't, and I may have said it in the second time. This isn't the first time that AIM has done this. This time they formed a corporation. Out in the Midwestern part of the country somewhere, several years back, that AIM itself walked away from the dam and the community, devastated that whole area. So this isn't new to them. Not sure.
You're gonna,
So we need to talk people.
you guys are doing.
You know, it's, people really want to respond to what you're saying. I'm gonna.
So I'll hang around.
Okay. We really need to move on to the next. We really need input from you. So I'm sorry, we have to pause there and move into the next phase of the meeting. But before we do, I want to just show hands. How many of you received the postcard mailing about these meetings? Okay. So a good number. And then how many of you responded to the survey? And how many of you responded? Well, no, actually, that's a question for later, right? It wouldn't.
They've kind of heard that.
Okay, so now that we've heard more information and background about this, how many of you did respond to the survey would change anything you said with answers you selected? Maybe hard to
Remember what they said.
Yeah, that's what I'm just thinking. Yeah, that's kind of. And do not own Lake County property to come to this other room. All lakefront property, please go to that side of the room
And live in Penobscot.
and live in Penobscot. If you don't, go to this side of the room. So,
Gotta give you that.
if you do not align with the story, came back in these breakout meetings and withhold your comments. This is really a discussion for folks who live in Penobscot or have property in Penobscot. Okay? Second of all, that you try to focus your discussion on these two questions. Okay? So dams or no dams, maintain water levels or don't maintain water levels. And how should, if this quasi-municipal entity is voted into existence, how should costs for maintaining dams be allocated? So they're asking you, the committee's asking, maybe to tell you, please try to focus your discussion there. Okay?
One more thing. In a couple of the town meetings that we've already had, there's been conversation about access to the lake. And that being a factor. That has nothing to do with the quasi-municipal entity.
Okay,
That's something that has to
yes,
be town.
okay.
In your conversations at the table, stay away from the access issue, because we all know there's no access in Penobscot, Blue Hill, or Surrey. And that's a town issue, not a quasi-municipal entity issue. And, if the people who are in your group and you feel as though you want to maintain the water level inside pond, and somebody in your group doesn't, please allow them to speak in questions or answers or whatever. If multiple don't want the water levels to stay, then please allow the people who do want the water levels to stay, they have their word. And if that's it, we'll get this started. Oh, Leah got one more.
Thanks, Harold, for making that remark. Wanted to respect everybody's opinions and preferences and views. So, no talking over each other. If somebody's kind of talking a lot, try to notice that you're doing that and hang back and let other people, and add their comments. And lastly, also, want to draw your attention to the fact that your table has a moderator. So the moderators, please raise your hand. These folks will be helping to guide the conversation, helping make sure everybody who wants to speak gets a chance to speak. And they will be reporting the outcome of your conversation with respect to these two sites. Okay, thanks. Go for it.
People. Conversation was, we don't need to be focused on saving the dam, we need to be focused on maintaining water levels. And whatever. With multiple options. The funding is a vote of 6-0 for the town to fund the dams. With the conversation going, people don't have children in the school, we fund the school budget is about 86% of the annual taxes in the town of Penobscot. A couple of for instances, when the nursing home license was taken away in town, they had about $24,000 a year in tax revenue. When the license went away, the tax revenue went down to about $4,000 for all of the taxpayers. Just a small number in what we're talking. But all of the taxpayers picked up that difference. When the mill closed in the town of Bucksport, they had his tax revenue from the mill was millions or better. When they left, that was picked up, I believe, by mostly taxpayer money. Bucksport was pretty frugal with their money and they had much money set aside for a rainy day. Something did happen. That kind of draw them 2 years, so it didn't hit the moment quite so fast at the beginning. So that's where we were 6-0 for town funding the taxes and 6-0 as reserve the water.
Hold the mic really, really close.
Members voting.
Louder.
Can you hear me now? Yes. We had 5 members voting on these 2 questions. Vote came out in question 1. There's 6 felt that retaining the pond and the dam is a good idea. Future. Two people left. Second question. 5 people. I heard with 2 the property should be to lead toward property. For question 1 or 2. 5 people discussed and voted on question 2. 2 felt very strongly that property owners in the lakeshore should pick up. That direction. Consider picks. Resources like so, three and 5. That's the efficiency.
Huh?
That's the efficiency. And on the second question, is 3.
And
We did. Oh, all 7 voted to keep away, the United Front Line. And we basically, splitting the cost of maybe 50/50 owners and.
Can you say that into the mic, whatever?
There was still some trepidation because, we still don't know real cost. Using $10,000, which we came up with, but, as was true.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, thank you, everybody. So let's see, time check. It is 7:34. Everybody's ready to leave, or is there like a driving burning need to hang around and ask more questions and have more discussion? How many people would like to stay and ask more questions or have more discussion? Show of hands. Okay, all right, that's it. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming out on this blustery day and for giving your input. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah, sure.
Have
You
you
bet.
driving all over the
I
countryside?
know,
the last couple
I know,
weeks?
I know. Well, it's fun, of course. I love coming out. And
Yeah,
yeah,
meet people like this. It's like,
oh yeah, and seeing the
It's like-
different towns and what people are thinking. Of course,
I
yeah.
just think it's, somebody used the expression, I don't remember where it started, but it's describing something that's very messy.